So I had the great privilege of interviewing this young man in Cleveland, Ohio, Shawn Nixon. If you haven't heard an inspiring story, you need to hear his story. This will help you on your journey and your ventures to always strive forward for the things that you believe in and seeing your success. Matter of fact, he gave me a subscription to pass on to you guys. And the subscription is always, no matter what anyone say or doubt about you, always believe in yourself. And you know what comes right behind that. You hold the power in the palm of your own hands. So take that power in your hands and release it. All right, we're here today with Shawn Nixon. Shawn, tell the folks what field that you're into right now.
I'm currently a nurse practitioner for a cardiology group with the Cleveland Clinic.
Okay, and how old are you, Shawn?
35.
Man, so you did. So you're a pretty young guy that's into this field.
Correct.
How long did it take you to become a nurse practitioner? Because I know that you started off in the medical field as a nurse, right?
Yeah. So initially, even before the nurse, I started off in the medical field as a nurse, as a transporter. So that was just transporting patients from facility to facility, specialty to specialty. And I did that for about 3 years. Thereafter, I did it for another. After that, I became a nursing aide for 2.5 years. And then once I became a nurse itself, from a nurse to a nurse practitioner, it took me about 4 years.
Wow.
To become a nurse practitioner.
So what kind of guidance could you give someone that's looking to get into this field? What would be some of the ins and outs that the things that you went through that you possibly can help someone else, guide them through this journey?
Great question, because one person I've been consistently helping with this is my nephew, who's actually getting into the same field.
Okay.
I always tell people, if you're something you're interested in, put your foot in it, and as in like becoming a nursing aide, transporter, just like I started off at the ground roots. Understanding the field, understanding the profession, what the career is going to be like. A lot of people, when they get into it, they don't understand the totality of the position until you actually work physically into a hospital. Once you understand that, I tell people, once you get in that mindset, this is what I want. I always say, how I took it was, I was a basketball player all my life. The time and effort and energy that I put into basketball, I just pretty much just switched it from basketball into my career of nursing. I took that same exact motivation, same exact repetition of basketball, and I put it into nursing, and that's what I got from it.
Wow, that's excellent. I love that actually, because I try to speak on that a lot. Whenever you have a vision on something, you have to put forth that energy and make it work. Because if you can work for somebody else, from 9 to 5 or whatever time you need to be there at that person.
Exactly.
Why can't you take that same energy and place it into you?
Exactly.
The best investment, I feel, is the person yourself.
Agreed.
So that's wonderful to hear that that how you took the energy and just took it and switched it to something else like that. So you said you played basketball, like?
Yeah. So the funny thing is with basketball, it was I got a bunch of stories about it, but I'm gonna do a quick one. So I started with my basketball career at a small Division III college. It did not work out well for me because I was sold a dream that I never got. Okay. So I kind of left there, came back home, went to a junior college. I did well at the junior college, left the junior college and went on to a Division I college. And at that time, when I went to a Division I college, I walked on. It was amazing. And something happened with the college where someone was like it came to a point where it was under investigation, a bunch of things going on.
Oh wow!
And out of nowhere, I had the starting position as a point guard. So I was
point guard.
Yeah, starting as a
Really?
point guard in Division
Okay.
One. So I was extremely excited, extremely happy. Coach comes to me and tells me, like, "Hey, Shawn, we need your transcripts from Baldwin Wallace."
What?
So I was like, okay. I mean, because the NCAA clearinghouse wouldn't clear me.
Okay.
So I tried to get my transfer from Baldwin. What happened was that they said I withdrew incorrectly, and I'm the first generation college student, so I didn't know exactly what they were talking about. And they said, well, since you withdrew incorrectly, you now owe us $20,000. We will not release your transcripts until you pay us $20,000.
Oh my God.
So at that point, after walking on playing a year with University of Toledo, I actually stopped playing basketball because I knew I would never play basketball unless I had $20,000.
All right.
So came back home. This is where the story gets interesting. Came back home, and a coach of mine from high school, Ralph Barrios, God rest, hopefully rest easy, because he passed about a year ago. Great guy. He said, Shawn, you know what? I got a ticket for you to go to Cleveland State. The coach would like to see you play.
Okay.
Here's another point guard coming in. He think you and the other point guard would really make this team work really well. And I said, Coach Barrios, I promise you I would do it, but I don't want to waste your time, because if I go there, I won't be able to play, and I don't want them to waste their time on me. He said, that's totally fine. So that year they have a point guard that comes in the same exact time who I was supposed to come in with. His name is Norris Cole. Gets drafted to the NBA.
Oh my God! Wow.
Plays,
Sweet.
and I'm not saying we're the same level, but he gets drafted to the NBA. He goes to Miami Heat, plays 2 years with LeBron, gets 2 rings.
Woo.
Does well.
Wow.
And I'm like, gosh, that was like an opportunity that I could have had. But
Right.
I was like, everything happens for a reason. And
Yeah.
stopped basketball, and I went into nursing.
Okay. Well, the window of opportunity is all in timing, I feel. So,
Yes.
You know, when it worked out fine, though. You know, to me, from me looking on the outside, looking in,
Yes.
it looked like it worked out pretty well.
It did. It was at one point, which is the biggest thing, is a lot of young African American males, when we go into a sport after high school, we consider ourselves, this is what we have, this is the only thing that's left. We get into the sport, I'm going to make it.
Right.
If I don't make it, and when kids don't make it, they get stuck in this in-between space where
Right.
I don't have a career, I don't have the sport.
Right.
What am I going to do next?
Right.
And that was one of the biggest things that the biggest hurdle I tried to jump when I got finished with basketball, was trying to find where I fit in a career.
So how did you, what made you decide, starting off into, you know, even to the medical field, period? Like, what prompted you to say, I'm gonna take this route, instead of saying, okay, well, I'm going to work for somebody else in, you know, department store or something, you know?
Exactly. So everybody has a story. I have a similar story, which is, I always know I want to help some people, regardless whether I get into the NBA or not, or wherever I did. I knew I wanted to be in the business of helping.
Okay.
And one of the things that kind of helped nudge me towards that was, I thought back to when I was a kid. At the age of 5, I got hit by a car.
5 years old?
Yeah, so I was 5 years old. I was at a park with me, my brother, and my cousin, and we were at this wooden park, and it was like some bees. We must have messed up a nest or something, and the bees had came rushing out, and literally my brother took off, I took off, my cousin took off. They're on one side of the street, I'm on the other side, and for some reason it seemed like the bees were just chasing me. Kid you not. So like I'm hearing like buzzing like all around my head. So I go to hit at it. When I hit at it, the bees actually stung me in both parts of my eyes right here. It was 2 bees.
Wow.
So at that time, I'm panicking. I'm off adrenaline. I don't even really feel the pain as much, but I feel my eyes shutting because it's swelling up.
Right.
So I'm panicking, I'm crying, and I go to cross the street to be with my brother and cousin. And at the time I cross the street, there was a car going 45 miles an hour, hits me.
Oh.
So I get life flighted, and I get put in. I get there, and my body is mangled. I end up in a full body cast, and At that time, I was in the hospital for maybe a month or so, because they had to put I literally cracked my femur literally in half. Both ankles were broken, and both of my shoulders were like discombobulated. Like, I don't even know what to even tell you how they looked. My body looked crazy.
Wow.
So I was in a full body cast for about 6 months, but it ended up being half the cast all the way down for like a whole year. And at that time, when I was in that hospital, I promise you, I feel like I was the only child in that hospital. And when I was in that hospital, the way those nurses treated me, it made me feel like I was the only kid there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, this is amazing. I said, if I can make anyone feel the way those nurses made me feel, it'd be worthwhile.
Wow.
So, got a nurse.
Another amazing story. Man, you got some deep stuff here.
Yeah,
wow.
a little bit.
Wow, okay.
Say a little bit of history.
So when you went through this as a kid, you was in the hospital, you said basically
about a month or so.
A month or so, right? And so you had this body cast on for a year, you say?
Yeah, so I was at home with the body cast. My mother and stepfather literally attended to me like every beck and call. It was nuts.
Wow, strong.
Yeah.
That's
so,
very strong.
And I think that's what part of my I don't know, like I'm never content with things. And I think that's what it's always been for me as a kid. Like when I was in the cast, like when I got I had literally had a full body cast, but I had my left arm open. So I was like a cast like this, and my legs everything was all covered, but my left arm was open. It was the only one that was open. I would literally throw myself off the bed to try to pull myself up to walk every time, but I would fall over, obviously. But I was just I was never content with the situation I was ever in. I always wanted to fight for what I wanted. Like, you know, I didn't want to stay laying in the bed. I wanted to walk.
Okay.
So I fought my way to walk. And even at that time, which is crazy, I was told, I kid you not, I was never going to ever play sports in my life.
Right, I was going to get to that.
And literally, I played sports all my life. So I literally everything I've done, I fought for. And I was like, I'm not going to make an exception for anything that I do or an excuse. I'm going to fight for what I want. So.
Wow, amazing. That is amazing. So what's the next level that you plan on, or where you see your vision at next? Since you already achieved your nurse practitioner right now, so what's the next level? What do you plan on doing?
So a couple plans. I always set myself for a 5-year goal and a 10-year goal, and I look at it and say, hey, is this where am I going to meet this expectation of mine? At this moment, I have either one or two goals per se. One is, after nurse practitioner, I would love to be in a setting where I'm the president of the hospital. And also, the next, another step I would like to do is I would like to be the health commissioner of the state of Ohio.
So the health commissioner, stop right there for a second. Mm-hmm. So the health commissioner, they oversee all the hospitals in that state, or
all of healthcare in the state of Ohio.
Okay,
so,
wow.
Like whether it's a different type of, you could say, like say with this COVID thing, you know, they have different types of things they go through. Like, okay, this is how we're going to adjust to COVID. This is how we're going to wearing masks, things like that.
Okay.
So that stems down from the health commissioner from the state of Ohio. So when you look at things like that, they're head of all healthcare. So they're looking at any and every type of healthcare goal that can be accomplished.
Okay.
So it's a more of a community-based type of thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of projects that are being done with it outside of the COVID, obviously. So.
Okay. So if that one doesn't pan through, what's the second thing that you will probably, you know, have your eyesight on? So, because I know you got to have more than one.
Yeah. Like I was saying, the president of the hospital. Funny thing is, the current president right now. It's funny how the circle turns, because I actually, when I left Toledo, I was training athletes. Basketball players, NBA players,
okay.
College, and young kids. And a young kid I was training was really good, and he so happens to be the president of our hospital right now.
Wow.
And and he knows me really well, and he's a physician, but he started off in the same position that I started off, was as a transporter. And he told me, Shawn, he said, I look forward to seeing you being in this position sometime here in the near future.
Yeah.
And I told him, you can count on that. So I told myself if this is what depending on the next few years, how I will look at things, if this is going to be the next step for me, then I will be president of this hospital.
Yeah.
And it's something, like I said, it's like a 5-year goal. Somewhere between 5 to 7 years is something I would like to reach, and trying to make my way up that ladder to be the president of the hospital.
Wow, that's wonderful. So do you do any exercises as far as training yourself? When I say this, I'm saying, like, do you envision everything, map it out before you actually, just go for it, or it just come natural for you?
It doesn't come, I wouldn't say it comes natural, because everything I've done, I always do positive thinking, especially when it comes to goals. I always do positive thinking. I always think of something that's healthy for my mind, and I literally look at what it takes to get to that position. I look at it, I read it, I literally, you can ask my wife, I literally look at the position and I really study it. And it's something that I've always think of, like, hey, I'm gonna speak into existence. This is a goal that I'm setting for myself, and this is the steps I need to take to get there. So it's always healthy thinking, and literally I always think about what's next for me. Like, okay, if I fail at this, it's fine, because I still learn from the failure.
Yeah,
and so I'm
absolutely.
still going to go forward with that decision that I'm making. So there's always going to be some missteps, and it's totally fine as long as you can get back up and keep moving.
Right. I have something actually that I say behind failure. So each time that you fail, is this building a staircase of success. So every time that you fail, this is a failure, this is a failure. Every time that you fail, it's actually building you, getting to that point. As long as you got your mind and your eyesight on what you want, nothing can stop you. Nothing. And you can achieve it. You have to achieve it. It's like something that's a part of you. Like in my case, I literally like taste stuff when I want it.
Yes.
I have a taste for it.
Yes.
And I can't even explain it to people. It's like anything that I want, I normally get it, because, and I don't worry about it, because when I get that taste in my spirit, my soul, is just like, it's done.
Yes,
it's
yes,
mine.
I agree. Actually, as a kid, when I was like maybe a sophomore in college, I was in history class, which I never really paid attention to, but I did this day, because it was about African Americans and slavery and everything, and our teacher was African American. He was actually teaching it correctly, and one of the best quotes that stuck with me was from Frederick Douglass. It said, "Without struggle, there's no success." And so I've always thought of that, like, listen, I'm gonna struggle for a reason, and it's never gonna be easy. I'm never gonna be comfortable.
Right.
So I'm gonna make it the best of what I got. So.
Right. So what would you suggest to the future Shawn that's coming up behind you? What suggestion could you give this person that's into this medical field business? What hurdles they need to stick to, and what advice could you give to the next person? Or let me ask you this: are you mentoring? Well, you did mention to me earlier
My
your
nephew,
that
yes.
you're mentoring.
Yes. So besides that, I literally, before COVID, I was actually in the talks with the high school here. I kind of wanted to get into a mentoring. Tell people, at that time, you're so young, you don't understand what life is like as an adult.
Right.
And it's so hard to go into a college to saying, this is my major, if you don't know exactly what you're going for. Because you're an athlete, you're going to play basketball. That's your only thing that's on your mindset. And so, with that being said, I always tell people, like, it's definitely going to be a lot of failures in life after high school. It's literally the only thing that you have to understand that is going to happen, because if you don't accept failure, you can accept success.
Yeah.
And people, and sometimes if it depends on their household, you don't know what's going on with their households or whatever it may be. But having that mentorship and someone to actually tell you, hey, listen, I've been there. This is what happens. Just like when I was at Toledo, I couldn't play basketball because I didn't withdraw correctly.
Right.
So those are the missteps you're going to have in life. So you have to learn that, hey, you know what? This is not the end of my story. This is what begins my story, possibly. So people have to understand that, there's going to be a lot of failure in life. You just cannot give up. And like I said, my quote, without struggle, there's no success. You have to be able to pick yourself back up. I think, honestly, a lot of these kids are more resilient than they think. They just don't, nobody's telling them that, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And they need that also, you know, for somebody to actually tell them. Do you see yourself writing a book?
Funny is, gosh, this is crazy. So my wife, literally, I woke up out of a dream, and I thought it was so real, literally. And I told her about it. I said, hey, is this movie out? And I said the name of the movie. She's like, what? And I literally Googled it and everything, because it was in my head, and it was no movie of the name. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, I feel like I have to write this book.
Right.
And the book sounded so weird, but I'm actually in like the very beginning stages of it, but I'm gonna actually start writing a book. It's the weirdest name of a book, but it made so much sense to me at the time, and and I literally started the opening chapters and stuff and trying to get things together. But yes, I'm in the works of writing a book, and I think it's gonna touch close to impoverished societies and people that grew up in like in the hood or projects, because that's where I was at, and that was the story. It was a really good story, so I'm still figuring about writing that right now.
Yeah, I think that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
So you said you grew up in the hood and
yes,
in the project area.
Yes.
So self-motivated at a young age.
I wouldn't say I was self-motivated. It was two things that, well, there's a few things that motivated me. One, my biggest motivation was my brother. He's about 13 months older than me, so I always looked up to him. He was more so my father figure than anything, because he was the only one else consistently in my life, outside of my mother. But interesting enough, my mom, she's one of 6 girls, in which every one of them were addicted to drugs besides my mother. And my father, he was addicted to drugs, along with some of his sisters. So I grew up in drugs. My mother remarried, and guy that was Southern guy, just like my mother. He had a lot of Southern stuff, but his son was also, he was a drug dealer.
Okay.
And as much as he was a drug dealer, he actually always steered me and my brother in the right direction every single time. Regardless, and he would do, it'd be small stuff like counting his money, like, hey, can you count my money, make sure your math is right. What's this plus this? What's that? Yeah. So he would never let us see any drugs, but he would always let us count money. But he always made sure, like, hey, what's your grades like? What are you doing? Why do you have a C, Shawn? Are you not paying attention?
Wow.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
So as much as people, I mean, obviously, a lot of the times people look at the neighborhood drug dealer, the hustler, or whatever, as the person, like, hey, this is the person to look up to. It wasn't necessarily that for me. It was mostly just like looking at the things of what the failures of people. Why did this person fail? Why did my father fail? My father was very successful, but he got into drugs with rich people. So why did he fail? Why did my stepbrother fail? He was a smart, my father, they both were intelligent men. Why did they fail? Okay, so this is why they failed. So I'm understanding this in my head, like, this is what failure looks like. This is what failure looks like. But I have to learn not to do that. They're teaching me not to fail by looking at what they're doing. So my brother was never into any of that stuff. He was just into sports. So that was the biggest thing that caught my eye. I could never beat him, but I was just good enough to beat everybody else in the neighborhood. But my brother, I couldn't, because he knew everything I knew. So he kept me on that straight and narrow. Even to this day, if it was a fight or something like that, and my brother's not with that. If you gotta fight somebody, it's gonna be me. It's not me. My brother's in this school. Leave him alone. Every time. And though I did get into fights growing up as a kid, but like once like I get to like college and stuff like that, they wouldn't let me touch it. Nobody would let me touch anything. So I just stayed. I just got lucky. I just got blessed. My brother, my mother. And just learning from people, learning what the failures of people were. Like, I mean, it was all in society, and I knew what I wanted in life. And I was never content with just being that person. Like, I never got content with the hood saying, oh, he's the best player in the city, this and that, and just being fine with that. I didn't want to be fine with just being the best player. I didn't care about that, because that's what held a lot of people back. And so I stopped thinking about that. Like, listen, this is not gonna be doing anything for me in life. I'm just the best hood player, because it ain't gonna make me any money. So I chose a career.
you had this background with your family, and because it's not many of us that can actually, go through that type of maze. A lot of us have similar stories in our background, and for you to make it through all of that, man, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I know your family is very proud of you.
Yeah. Man, big ups to Mom Dukes. I'm telling you, she was a soldier through it all. She had 3 of us. Also, my grandmother, she pretty much raised every grandchild she had. She helped with my mother. She helped my mother out. She helped all her my mother's sisters' kids out. Literally, to this day, she is like the little temple of what a strong woman's like. And I literally, every time I see her, just amazed at how she's able to do everything. Especially my grandmother. My grandmother she's from Birmingham, Alabama. And she's been through the civil rights movement. She's marched with Martin Luther King. We have a bunch of background history with civil rights movements. So my mother and them, they were just literally, she's always been strong. They always been a strong people. So for them just to actually raise us to be so good is just a blessing, man, honestly. Yeah. Because we all don't make it. And it's I could have just been one person away from just saying, hey, Shawn, just do this. You can make money this easy.
Right.
And I just didn't. I don't know what it was. It was just, it could be anybody. Like you said, it could be any of us.
Yeah.
It's just fortunate, man.
Yeah.
Fortunate.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to wrap this up, Shawn. It was great talking to you. Mm-hmm. Folks, if you want to hear an inspiring story, you got to listen to this young man. I mean, he came a long way and very successful where he came from. Shawn, I thank you for taking your time out.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. This is fun.
All right.
This is fun, man.
And I'll
do it
talk
again.
to you later.
All right, man. All right. Appreciate it.
Folks, you already know.